host of the Gridiron.
Another thing that pisses me off, I can't stand the Eagles. So sorry, Saquon, you will never own the rushing record. Now the one thing is you can look is that you know it's not so much how many games the guy played in and all that. It was it's to me it's like how many carries did you have in the season, right? How many carries did you have? And to me, because to me, right, you look at the top like. There's 9 guys, right, who've rushed for 2,000 yards in the season. Now, he was the first guy right here to do it. He did it in 14 games, but he had a lot of carries, right? So Saquon's in that 2,000-yard club, right? But let's see. Where are we at here? Is this? Oh, here we go. All right. Now, the thing is that, so we got OJ Simpson in 1973. He had 2,003 yards. Now, Saquon has 2,005. But Saquon has, what does he have? Saquon has 13 more carries, right? OJ Simpson averaged 143 yards a game. I mean, if you go by the top 17, 18, I mean, yeah. He averaged 140. You go to the top 25 guys as far as most yards in a season. You go to number 25 is Larry Johnson. He had 1,789 yards in 2006. So the top 25 rushing totals in NFL history for a season. OJ Simpson, in 1973, he averaged 143 yards a game. He averaged 6 yards a carry. He's by far, he averaged as good as the season as Saquon's had. Saquon's only averaged 125 yards a game. OJ Simpson averages 143. He averages 18 more yards per game. He averaged 6 yards a carry in that season. But he had 332 carries. Saquon's had 345 carries. So Saquon's had 13 more carries than OJ Simpson. But to me, and I said once again, OJ did this in a 14-game schedule. Now the other thing too is that Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson has had. Let's see, what's he have? He's had 34 more carries than Saquon. Yeah, 34 more carries than Saquon. If Saquon had 34 more carries, especially this weekend against the Giants, he would blow Eric's record out of the water. Blow it right out of the water, right? And the one thing is that, possibly giving Eric all those carries, maybe not resting him. I don't know what the playoff situations were, or in the final week. I could look, but it's either here or there. But the thing is that might hurt Eric, maybe possibly in the playoffs, giving him all those carries and everything like that, and trying to get him the record. Why? Because in the first round of the playoffs, the Giants went into Los Angeles and beat the Rams. Right? We beat them 16-13. Now, interestingly enough, during the regular season, the Giants went into Los Angeles and played, and they got blown out by the Rams in Los Angeles, blown out. But in the playoffs, right, maybe he had almost 400 carries during the season. Eric Dickerson wore down, and maybe that helped maybe the Giants win that playoff game out in Los Angeles. But so you can just look and see how many yards per carry the guys had and all that. But Saquon's had more carries than OJ Simpson did, and he only has 2 more yards. Saquon has like 34 less carries than Eric Dickerson. So give them both the same amount of carries. Eric Dickerson averaged what? 5.6 yards a carry. Saquon's averaging 5.8 yards a carry. Yeah, but they both had 16 games. OJ Simpson did it in 14 games. Now also, with the Bills and with it's a little different because with Saquon, he has 2 number one, pretty much number one, because once again, there's no salary cap in Philadelphia. If you look at like Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, like A.J. Brown and Lane Johnson. I haven't looked at any others, but like the top 5 guys, pay-wise, on the offense, they all have void years on the end of the contracts, meaning they bring them in, they pay them whatever, pay them a nice good salary, but they don't pay them right now. It's all pushed after they're gone and their salary and their contracts are done. That's when a lot of their money is come due. They couldn't do that back then, back in 1973. Back in 73, there's no salary cap or nothing like that. You draft and maybe you trade, and that's what you got. You pick guys up off the streets and stuff like that. There's no bringing a guy in. You don't bring all these guys in. Yeah, we'll give you so much money. We'll give you like 35 cents now, and then we'll just pay you all later. There was none of that then, right? So because the Eagles are building this really good team, right, by putting a lot of void years on into the contracts, right? They owe like $400 million in contracts going forward. They couldn't do that in 1973 with the Buffalo Bills. It's like you draft and you make some trades, and that's how you build your team, right? And in 1973, the Buffalo Bills had 2 guys, right, who had over 400 yards receiving. That was it. 400 yards in the 14-game schedule. They had J.D. Hill. J.D. Hill had 422 yards, and Bob Chandler had 427 yards. They had 1,200 yards passing, 1,236 yards receiving all season long. So they had no passing game. The Eagles have a threat of a passing game. The Bills back then did not. The Bills had basically one option: they had to hand the ball off to OJ Simpson, right? So back then, right, the defenses were basically, gotta stop the juice, right? Nowadays, it's like, well, we gotta stop Saquon, but we gotta somehow try to figure out they got a good offensive line, and we gotta always guard against those good wide receivers. Well, the Bills did not have good. The wide receivers were good, but they were not what the Eagles have. So they had 2 guys who had a little over 400 yards receiving for the whole season. They had 1,200 yards receiving all season long, the Bills. Their whole offense was around the juice, right? And he played on some crappy fields. If you ever go on YouTube, final game of the season, they played in Shea Stadium where he got the record. We got over 2,000 yards. It was snowing. The field was muddy, dirty, sloppy, icy. Everybody's uniform was covered in dirt and mud. I mean, you're not allowed to have that nowadays. If you have dirt and mud on your uniform, the NFL fines the team. You can't have dirt. Can't get dirt on people's uniforms nowadays. Can't have that. Well, it was back 50 years ago. It was a little bit different. So, to me, Saquon can have the record and he can this, that, and the other. But to me anyway, I'm an old-time fart. He'll never have the record. It's OJ Simpson has the record. He did it in 14 games. He did it on less carries. He did it on a much worse. Let's see, what was their record in 1973? I know a couple of the years they did go to the playoffs. In 73, they were 9-5. They went to the playoffs. Did they lose? Who did they lose? Oh, no, they didn't go to the playoffs. They were 9-5. The final game of the season when he beat the record, he beat the Jets 34-14 in Shea Stadium. But they didn't even go to the playoffs. But to me, I said O.J. Simpson did it in less carries. He did it in 14 games. He played on a team that had no passing attack, unlike what Saquon did. As I said, with the Eagles, the only reason, one of the big reasons why the Eagles have a very good team is because they bring in all these guys. They can't afford to pay them all, so they put all void years on the end. So a lot of teams do that, but not to the extent the Eagles do. The Eagles, by far, have more contracts pushed off into the future with void years and all that than any other NFL team. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they have such a good team. They're like, damn, they're good. Well, that's the reason why. Right. Yeah. A lot of other teams don't do that with their salary caps. And I said 1973, you couldn't do that. You draft and maybe make some trades, and those are the guys you got. You can't go out and just bring in guys and pay them all kinds of money and push the money down the line. You couldn't do that in 73. not the Eagles though. So, for Saquon to do what he did is absolutely fantastic and all, but he was, it's like you given one of the best offensive lines in football. You give him one of the best offenses in football. This, that, and the other thing and all. You should be doing this unless you get injured. So if Saquon didn't do really, really well with the Eagles, well, that's a major disappointment. But to me, he'll never have the record. And even Eric Dickerson, to me, he doesn't. He has the record, but he had so what did he have? He had 79 and he had 32. He had like 45, 47 more carries than the Jews. So, I mean, he might have the rushing record, but he had so many more carries than OJ Simpson did. It's to me, it's not even close.